Hi everyone, thanks for joining us tonight for the webinar on eggplant seed saving. My name is Brian Stewart. I'm the field manager here at Seed Savers Exchange, and I'm very happy to be with you. As far as growing eggplant for seed saving purposes, we don't really need to do much of anything differently. We'll just simply grow the crop the same as we would the vegetable crop. In the spring, we want to start our eggplants from seed indoors or in a greenhouse if we have it, about 8 weeks before our last frost. And then transplant into the garden once consistently warm weather settles in. Now be patient because eggplants won't grow much in cool soils and cool temperatures, and they will not tolerate light frosts. Space your eggplants in the garden about 1.5 feet between plants, and about the same or more between rows. Eggplant is in the Solanaceae or nightshade family, so it is closely related to many other common vegetable crops, such as tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes, among many others. This is a good thing to keep in mind with your crop rotation in your garden, as all of these crops are susceptible to many of the same pests and diseases. Most of the eggplant that we are familiar with all belong to the same species, Solanum melangina. These include all of the Italian and Asian types. Colors range from white to light green to pink and purple and striped varieties. A lot of diversity there. Eggplant does have perfect flowers and will self-pollinate to a large degree. However, bees are more than happy to come and visit your eggplant flowers and will transfer pollen from one plant to the next or between different varieties grown in close proximity. So isolating eggplant varieties that we are seed saving from is essential. If you are growing more than one variety of eggplant and you intend to save pure seed of one or more of those varieties, there will be a few things you need to keep in mind. To produce pure seed of a single variety of eggplant, it must be adequately isolated from other eggplant of the same species. The easiest way to do this is by distance. For absolute purity, multiple varieties of eggplant should be isolated by a distance of 300 feet from one another. This is the distance that we use here at the farm. If barriers exist between different varieties, such as tree lines or buildings, this distance can be reduced to 150 feet. These distances can also be reduced further when we're growing smaller populations. Remember, you can save seed from plants that are not adequately isolated, and they will probably be delicious. However, they will not be true to type of the original variety. Another thing to remember, your eggplant will be more than happy to cross with your neighbor's eggplants as well. The other thing to consider is population size. This is very important to avoid inbreeding depression and to maintain as much genetic diversity within the variety as possible. You should pay close attention to recommended population sizes if you are producing seed over the long haul. In other words, if you are the only source for this particular variety, cultivar, or strain of eggplant. This definitely applies if your variety is an old family heirloom. On the other hand, if your intentions are to only save enough seed to grow for yourself over the next couple of years, or if the variety you are growing is very common and more seed could easily be obtained if necessary, population sizes are of less importance. I would recommend 20 plants as an absolute minimum. However, the more plants, the better with eggplant. Here at the farm, each eggplant production that we grow includes 100 plants. We do not need this quantity of seed by any means, but we do want to maintain the genetic diversity for our conservation purposes. Always save and combine the seed from at least one fruit per plant, no matter how many plants you grow. And don't let population sizes discourage you from saving seed. Always just do the best that you can. Another option for isolating eggplant is to cage the population in which you are going to save seed from. These plants must be protected from wild pollinators while they are flowering. For the home gardener, a simple cage could maybe be made using fabric row cover. It is important, however, if absolute purity is desired, that the row cover stay secure and is inspected for rips and tears and repaired promptly. Another method that is useful for small-scale seed saving is using blossom bags such as this one. Obviously, this is a cluster of tomato flowers, but bagging individual flowers of eggplant will work just as well. Remember, you are trying to keep bees from visiting the flower. The bag must be installed before the flower opens. Once the fruit has set and the blossom falls, the bag should be removed and the fruit labeled so that it is clear that this is fruit you want to collect seed from. Eggplant is one of the crops in which the fruit, at the stage in which it is market mature, is actually botanically immature, and so are the seeds inside. Immature seed is not viable. Once picked from the vine, immature eggplants will not fully develop their seeds. It is important to know when your eggplant is seed mature. Fruit harvested for seed should not be picked until it has reached its mature color. Color change is a principal way to determine if seed is mature and ready for harvest. Purple varieties become dull purplish brown and often gnarly. Green fruits become yellowish green. White fruits become a golden yellow. Break open and inspect some fruit. The seed should be hard and brown. Remember, try to save seed from at least one fruit per plant to maintain genetic diversity. After harvest is complete, you can let fruit hang out in a dry location for up to a week before extracting the seed. Okay, so here we've harvested our fruit and now we're ready to process. So one good practice is just to slice the eggplant around the edge, just about a 1/4 inch deep. That way you don't damage any seeds. You can cut through the seeds with a sharp knife. So then here we have our seed laid out here, or our fruit laid out. We've cut it open. The seed looks pretty good, and we're just about ready to process it. So you can remove seed by hand. I wanted to make that clear. It is time consuming, um, but I'm going to show you. I imagine many people have a food processor, so this is the easy way to do kind of a medium sized lot of fruit and seed. um, this works pretty good for our needs. Like I said, we're usually processing on average about 100 fruits per variety. So this is about 5 or 6 fruit we can get into this food processor at one time. So it's a little bit of a process, but it works well for us. And it's important to say that use the dough blade on your food processor if you have one. And I haven't tested a blender on eggplant, but it's definitely something, if you have extra fruit, you can try. If that's all you have as a blender. The blades may be too sharp and they may chop up your seed, but it's worth a shot. But it works really well with the dough blade on a low speed. It's about the best advice I can give, and really no seed is damaged when you use the dough blade in a low speed. So here you can see we're chopping this, we're running this thing through the food processor, and this is really only like 10 seconds we run this thing, just enough to get, we're not trying to make salsa here or puree these fruit by any means. I just want to bust the seed up away from the fruit. And I should also we're definitely we're kind of filling this thing up just above the blade, and then really mind your fill line on your food processor, because you will get water everywhere if you don't. So here you can kind of see the resulting mash, and we've transferred it to a bucket now. And then we're gonna add more water to this. And what's gonna happen now is that the water is gonna be really dirty, but we're gonna have the ability. Right now, we'll shake this up a little bit more with our hands. You can see this in this picture here, and we can really remove a lot of that, or we can separate the seeds some more by agitating it with our hands, and we can just pretty much pull that seedless pulp right out of the bucket. And this is kind of the first step in the decanting process here. So after I remove those big chunks, now I'm gonna pour off kind of the smaller chunks and probably some light seed as well. but there's going to be lots of good heavy seed at the bottom of our bucket. And we'll just go through these pictures really quickly. So now I'm going to refill it, and you can see the water is getting cleaner the more times I repeat this step. And then we're going to pour the water off again. And then add some more water. Now you can start to see the clean seed at the bottom in the clear water. And then we're going to do one final rinse. Now here we're just putting some more water in here just so we can get, just so it'll transport the seed out of the bucket. And we're going to go directly into a sieve here. And then in this next photo you can see, once I have it in the sieve, I'm just going to pat it dry with a towel on the bottom, and that'll get a lot of the moisture off. And then here at the farm we've learned that putting wet seeded solanums, especially the whole group, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, all of those, we like to dry the seed on coffee filters because it tends to, it absorbs a lot of water like a napkin would, but the seed doesn't stick to it, so it works really well for us. So we've got our dollop of seed there, and then we've spread it out to dry. And then you want to make sure that you get all your variety name, your what it is important, what crop type it is, and what variety is, and how many fruits you got from how many plants. That's important, and then the date, that you harvested the seed, because it doesn't do us much good to go through all this work if we don't remember what the variety was that we were growing. Thanks for coming, and it was a good time chatting with you guys.